What if the person you love most never truly had to leave? What if grief, instead of swallowing you whole, could be transformed into something that breathes and grows and changes lives? I want to tell you about a woman named Maria who lost her 23-year-old son, Dante, to a sudden cardiac event on a Tuesday morning in October. He had been a first-generation college student, a jazz trumpet player, and the kind of person who remembered everyone's birthday, and when he died, Maria said the silence in her house became its own kind of weight. But then Maria did something extraordinary. She didn't just mourn Dante, she mobilized his memory, turning his passion for music education into a scholarship fund that has now sent 14 students to music conservatories across the country. And that is exactly what we are going to unpack today. I want to walk you through the art and the architecture of tribute, how to take someone's passions and build something living and lasting from them. Because here is what I know to be true. Grief without direction becomes a prison, but grief with purpose becomes a cathedral. The most powerful memorials in human history were not monuments of stone, they were movements of action. Let's start with the foundational truth. A tribute rooted in someone's passion is infinitely more powerful than one rooted in their name alone. Names fade from plaques, but a scholarship changes the trajectory of a human life, and that life changes another and another until the ripple is immeasurable. Think of it this way. You're not just honoring the dead, you are recruiting them into an ongoing mission. Every student who receives Dante's scholarship carries a piece of him into every performance, every classroom, every stage. Now let's talk about the first and most beloved form of tribute, the scholarship. A scholarship is a structured gift of opportunity, typically awarded annually to a student who embodies the values, passions, or field of your loved one. To launch one, you begin by defining the criteria: what subject, what values, what kind of student would your person have cheered for loudest? Then you decide on the vehicle. Do you establish a fund through a community foundation, a university endowment, or your own nonprofit? Community foundations are the most accessible starting point for most families. For as little as $500 to $1,000 as a seed gift, many community foundations will house and administer your fund, handle the legal paperwork, and even help you with the application process. You then write what I call the passion statement, a one-page narrative describing who your loved one was, what they cared about, and why this scholarship exists. This document becomes the soul of the fund, the thing applicants read before they ever fill out a single form. Then you set your selection criteria. Will you prioritize financial need, academic achievement, community service, or creative talent? Maria required applicants to submit an original musical composition and a personal essay about a mentor who changed their life, because that is exactly what Dante would have asked. Once your first award is made, even if it is only $250, you have crossed the threshold. You are no longer grieving alone, you are building a legacy. Now let's talk about the second form of tribute, one that is quieter but deeply primal: planting trees. There is something ancient and instinctual about planting a living thing in someone's name. A single tree planted in a public park, a schoolyard, or a nature preserve becomes a meeting point, a place where people can go and feel proximity to the person they lost. And unlike flowers on a grave, a tree grows, changes with the seasons, shelters birds, cleans the air, and outlives everyone in the room. Organizations like the Arbor Day Foundation and One Tree Planted allow you to dedicate trees for as little as $1 each, providing certificates and GPS coordinates so families know exactly where their tree stands. Some families plant memorial groves, collections of 10, 20, even 100 trees, transforming a hillside into a living forest of remembered love. The measurable outcomes here are stunning. One family I spoke with planted a grove of 50 trees in memory of their father, a conservationist. And within 3 years, the grove had become a certified wildlife habitat, sheltering over 30 bird species, a fact that would have made their father weep with joy. But perhaps the most communal and electrifying form of tribute is the memorial event. This is where grief becomes gathering, where isolated sorrow transforms into shared celebration. A memorial event can take countless forms. an annual 5K run in someone's name, a cooking competition honoring a chef, a film screening for a cinephile, a golf tournament for a weekend warrior, or a community garden workday for someone who loved the soil. The form should always mirror the passion. To launch a memorial event, you begin with a planning committee of 3 to 5 people, ideally people who love the person from different corners of their life. You give the event a name that honors your person directly, something like the Dante Rivera Jazz Invitational or Running for Rosa. Then you choose a date, ideally near the person's birthday or a date that held meaning for them. And you secure a venue. Many parks, schools, and community centers offer free or deeply discounted space for nonprofit memorial events. You apply for a simple event permit from your local municipality, which typically costs between $25 and $100 and takes 2 to 4 weeks to process. Next, you build a sponsorship packet, a one-page document explaining the event, the honoree, and where the proceeds go, and you approach local businesses for in-kind or cash support. Small businesses especially love the community visibility, and many will donate products, services, or money in exchange for logo placement. Here are the numbers that should inspire you. First-year memorial events typically raise between $1,000 and $5,000, enough to fund a scholarship, plant a grove, or seed a future year's event. By year 3, many events have grown to raise between $10,000 and $50,000 annually. And the non-financial outcomes are equally profound. Attendees consistently report that memorial events reduce their sense of isolation and grief, create new friendships across previously disconnected communities, and give them a calendar moment each year to both release and celebrate. Now, I want to address a misconception that stops many grieving people before they even begin. Many people believe you need to be wealthy, well-connected, or legally sophisticated to create a meaningful tribute, and that is simply not true. You do not need a nonprofit to start a scholarship. You do not need a lawyer to plant a tree. You do not need a major donor to throw a memorial event. You need clarity of purpose, a clear description of your loved one's passion, and the willingness to ask for help. Let's talk about the psychological architecture of this work, because it matters enormously. Research from the Journal of Traumatic Stress found that bereaved individuals who engaged in what researchers call legacy-building behaviors reported significantly lower rates of complicated grief and depression at 12-month follow-up. They weren't just honoring their person, they were healing themselves. There's a concept in grief psychology called continuing bonds theory, the idea that maintaining a healthy, evolving relationship with the deceased, rather than detaching from them, actually supports long-term well-being. Building a tribute is perhaps the most tangible form of continuing bonds that exists. Think of each act of tribute as a conversation you are still having with your person. Every scholarship application you read, you're asking, would Dante have loved this kid? Every tree you water, you are saying, I remember what you cared about. Now, let's talk about measurability. Because if you are going to do this well, you want to track what matters. For scholarships, track the number of recipients, the total dollars awarded, and where recipients are 5 and 10 years later.